I've got. There ain't much I can give, but I'll give you everything. Anything you had, you gave me half. When I was living with nothing, you helped me believe in something.
Yeah, you got a lot of records back there.
Yeah. I'm
I
afraid
got a small handful and a bunch downstairs. But
it looks like James. Is that a James Taylor album behind you?
yeah. Sweet Baby James.
Sweet Baby James. Well, there you go. That's excellent. So you've got your album coming out on the 5th, so that's pretty exciting. And it's your third album. Now, my understanding was it was recorded in Nashville, which I find interesting on several levels because the sound of it, it's, I wouldn't call it gospel. I'd call it more spiritual than gospel. And, you know, obviously Nashville is a booming town for all sorts of music these days. So I'm curious as to why you decided to record there.
So my first 2 records were also recorded in Nashville.
Right.
And usually I'll make it a road trip. I'll go with my family and we'll drive to Nashville, spend the time there and do the records. So this one was no different. But when I played at the Kodak Center, I was touring with an artist named Lauren Daigle.
Right.
Yeah. So, and became really good friends with her music director, producer, and drummer, same guy named Paul Mayberry. And we just hit it off and, you know, one day I said to him, I'm like, man, if you produced my record, how would you do it?
Yeah.
Right. And I had zero intentions of him producing my record.
He must have answered it correctly.
He did everything that I've been trying to do for the past few years. Right. And not to say I have failed records or anything like that, but it's just like artists, we're somewhat perfectionists and we want, you know what I mean? We may create something that the audience thinks is amazing. And we're like, man, I wish I changed this. I wish I did this.
Right.
So when Paul gave his answer, the biggest thing he brought up was allowing my voice to be front and center, you know what I mean? And making sure your voice is the star of the show. And, you know, he pretty much said there's nothing against your other records, but there's a lot happening around your voice. And I want to carve out a space just so your voice can be on a pulpit and just let people hear you, man.
Right.
So that was exactly what I wanted to do all my career and kind of always try to articulate. And this is the first time we were able to do it. So I think, you know, I love that you say spirituals because, like, you know, I didn't grow up in the South, you know what I mean? I went to a Catholic church, but I really connected to the spirituals, you know, Black spirituals. And maybe, what's the girl's name? Mahalia Jackson is one of my favorite singers of all time, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So when you say that, like, it resonates with me more than you saying it sounds like gospel music, because I don't consider myself making gospel music, you know what I mean?
Right. Although, having said that, there is a choir, it sounds like. Is that an actual choir singing behind you?
COVID did not permit us to have an actual choir.
I was wondering about that.
So with the rise of technology, we're able to simulate a choir. But
well, you did a pretty good job, I got to say. Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned when you were just talking that you wanted to put your voice on the pulpit. So another religious kind of reference, you know, the preachers are on a pulpit. So do you feel that you have a message that you're trying to get across on this record?
All my records like have messages. Like so the record probably right behind that record is Bob Marley's Uprising, or maybe the Legend record.
Yeah.
There's both in there, but the reason I got into music is because there's a time when, like, I was what they call soul searching.
Yeah.
And I had like very obscure, I would say, you're a music lover, so I'm sure you know these records, but for some people, they may be obscure records like American Prayer by like Jim Morrison.
Sure. Yeah.
His Head live at the, I can't remember what the venue's called. You know, like very, like I had every like CD, not records, but CDs at the time.
Yeah.
And as much as I loved all those music, they weren't like nourishing my soul. You know what I mean? And I felt like I sold all those CDs and the only thing I kept was Bob Marley. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I felt like Bob Marley was speaking to my heart. And I said to myself, how come there's no music out today doing what Bob Marley does for me? And I said, if there's no music, I'll make it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I went through a series of stages of training myself how to play guitar, training myself how to sing. And I've always felt like I write music that's going to help me get through my life, get through my day to day. And if it connects to me, it's going to connect to someone else. So everything I write has some kind of message or some kind of uplifting inspiration. I don't write a lot of songs that just leave you down or heartbreak songs. It's not my style. Even though I feel a lot of that stuff when I listen to it, I try to be another voice in this industry where it's like, okay, you need a song about, like having a relationship and that relationship bring you out of a dark place. I'll write that song.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're an alcoholic and you're going through the AA, what do you call it? The steps. I can't remember what they call it.
I know what you're the 12-step program, I think.
12-step program. There it is. I'm not writing a song specifically about that at all, but like, here's something that might help you get through that. You know what I mean? There's not enough music that does that. So I try to be that voice.
Yep. So you have a song called "Lift Me Again,"
Right.
which it feels like you're kind of getting in touch with yourself and then taking that and giving that to the audience or whoever's listening. So maybe tell me a little bit about that song.
Yeah, "Lift Me Again," I think was the first song on this record where I really started to think about my voice as a part of my songwriting, right? So whereas prior to that song, I was just writing my songs and I sang them how I could. And if I could hit the notes, I hit them. If I couldn't, I couldn't, right?
Yep.
But this song, I went into with the intention of writing something that was for my voice. You know what I mean? And that's because when I was on tour, I was playing places like Radio City Music Hall, Red Rocks,
And that's all right.
Yeah, some good spots. The Greek Theater in LA, right?
Yeah.
And you're hearing your voice in these arenas, theaters, and these spaces, and you're hearing these different textures. And I realized, oh, this is what your voice can do. So on that level, it became about using my voice in a more powerful way. So that song is, it's I guess it's a ballad, I guess we would call it, but essentially, I always feel like an outsider in this industry, always in this world overall. I've traveled a lot, backpacked a lot, and you get to some really low points. I've been to some really low points, and you need that energy or that boost just to get you through that next day because you don't know where you're going to even be tomorrow. You know what I mean? So that song, it's not from necessarily backpacking, but it's from understanding that, the hardship of life and that you can't stop. You just got to keep going. You know what I mean? And you need some inspiration from somewhere to keep going sometimes. So
Yeah. It's interesting. I wrote notes on the different tracks that I've listened to, and that one in particular, I noted the vocal performance on that one. So they obviously it's coming out in there. That's great. And there are quite a few videos that you've made for the record already. And I'm wondering, in general terms, how much input and thought do you personally have in the making of the video and how you present these songs visually?
Yeah, I'm pretty much behind all the creative in what I do as an independent artist. I work with 30 Tigers out of Nashville.
Right.
And they allow me to be as creative as I want to be. Like I can from the sequencing of the album to the packaging of the album to the plastic I put on the records, like I choose all that stuff, right? So when it comes to my visual content, I've worked with some direct. So the first video I did, Until You, I worked with a cinematographer and we co-directed that one. Second two I worked with a production company and they brought a director on and I was more of a creative on those two. And the most recent one for Say It To Me, I directed that one myself. That was a budget constraint and it was hard to execute the video we wanted to execute with the production team because of some things that were happening in Toronto around COVID and the pandemic. So I was like, you know what, let's just scale the budget down and I'll shoot that video myself, keep it simple.
Your words are not lost. Your voice is not weak. If no one will hear you say it to me. When your secrets are heavy and you're ready to scream, I'll carry the burden, say it to me.
Yep. I'm happy I did that way because I think it just conveyed the message really well. But yeah, I try to be involved in all my creative. I've kind of gotten this director's bug, so I kind of enjoy it. You know what I mean? I don't know how good I am at it, but I'm working on a video right now, and the pull your hair out part of directing is coming. Is happening.
Oh,
right
great.
now.
Yeah. There is that.
The last one was easy, but this one is a little more challenging. So,
Well, I see you did one for Cold as Fire, and which leads me to wanting me to ask you about your family as well, because I think your family's in the video. You've got 4 kids, right?
which yeah.
My God, I can't imagine. How do you do all this stuff and then manage to deal with that as well?
So come here, darling, hold me. I'm in the coldest fire, feel it burning, but I'm frozen. Wanna scream, but I stay quiet. I don't got nobody on my side, and God knows that ain't right. So come here, darling, hold me. I'm in the coldest fire.
I got a wonderful wife who is
I bet you do.
she's very supportive, very much hands-on in my career. Like she's my manager as well. So we co-manage, but she runs the ship. You know what I mean? I just try not to get in the way.
Right.
And like I think for a lot of artists, it's sad to say, but like I won't even say artists. I think in general that oftentimes when you're married to someone, you one person goes to work in this direction and the other person goes to work in this direction, and you come home and you try to have dinner and live your lives. You know what I mean? So fortunate for me in this situation, and that's great for whoever it works for. You know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't always work, and in the music industry, sometimes it's more difficult because you go on tour, you have this great time, and you're posting pictures, and your wife's back at home with the children, and she's got to go to work on a regular job, and it can breed envy and resentment. And I've heard people talk about that.
Yep.
Whereas my wife is hands-on. She wants to see all that, and she wants to make sure I'm excelling, and she's pushing me. When you're out there, make sure you connect with the right people. And I'm just like, I just want to go to my bed and chill out. So having her hands-on has been integral to my success. You know what I mean? If you can say success in my life, and to the connection of our family, like our children, I make sure to bring them to as much as I can. Right. When I signed my first booking agency deal, they were at the meeting. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great.
So we're very much like a small business family. You know what I mean?
Right. And are you exposing the children to the music you think they need to be hearing?
Yeah, I let them. I'm very liberal when it comes to like what they listen to. Like, as long as it's not crazy. Like, I'll listen to Tupac around them sometimes. You know
right.
I mean?
Okay.
Like it's or like there's things that I'll listen to sometimes. I'm like, okay, is this okay?
Yeah.
I mean, as long as the message is good. But yeah, they listen to all kinds of things, and I don't really stop them from listening to. Like, I try not to let them listen to anything too mainstream pop because of the direction it's going in. Like, I'm not going to say any names, but just there's a lot of stuff that's just not good for you, for a child. You know what I mean?
Yep.
My daughter will go work out in the morning, and she'll put on like this other day. I woke up and she was working out already, and she had like Stevie Wonder, My Sharia Moore playing. You know what I mean? And that was her choice. I didn't tell her. And then the next one, and then they'll put on like Kanye West, the new record, something off the new record, right? Like Jail or something. So they play music at home sometimes. I don't push them to be musicians. I just have instruments in the house.
Yeah.
And they love it. So
very cool. Now, getting on a more serious note, there's a song called Danger. I think it's the second track on the album. And my understanding is you kind of had a dream, and that's where this kind of came from, but it deals with some serious issues.
I feel danger, hear me calling, be my savior, Lord, hear me calling. I'm afraid, hey, night is falling, don't let me die alone. I feel danger, lift my breath, my heart, my soul. Lift my breath, my heart, my soul.
Right, yeah. So Danger, there's a long story and there's a short story. I'll try to keep it, condense it for you, but I dream music all the time. You know what I mean? Most of it's garbage and doesn't make it anywhere, but sometimes it lands. And this one, I woke up like 3:30 a.m. and I have like my photo booth. I'll grab my computer, go in the bathroom really quietly, not to wake anybody up, and just sing into my computer just so I have something. And the line I sang was, I was in Toronto at a venue called Massey Hall. I don't know if you'd heard of Massey Hall.
I have, yes. I believe Neil Young has recorded there.
Yeah, absolutely. He has a live at the Massey Hall, absolutely. And I was in the dream. I was at Massey Hall singing to this audience. I feel danger, hear me call, and then everybody was just singing along. And I remember feeling like, okay, this is a big one. Woke up, sang it, and then I had a verse melody as well. And I went back to sleep. And the next morning, I just wrote the song really fast. It all came to me really fast. And I went and played it for my wife. And I was like, I think this is a special song. Like, there's something here. You know, I dreamt this one. And I remember playing the chorus and like running around the house and just feeling really excited about this song. Right. And fast forward, the song's finished. I'm going to shoot a music video for this one. A director reaches out to me. This is before I've done any of the videos for this album. He reaches out to me and says, hey, I want to shoot a music video. What song would you like? And I said, Danger's a really good one. Let's go with that one. We reach out to a lady, a reverend in Toronto who works in the community. She works with people who have been victims of gun violence or who have lost someone to gun violence, particularly mothers. And she was going to consult on this video. So she says, she's going through my lyrics and says, the first line that I originally had was, Timothy was shot on Adelaide, right? Adelaide is a street here in Toronto. And she said, shot is a triggering word for these mothers. And I think you should remove it. And I'm like, sure, you know, I just want to help. I'm not here to trigger anybody. The song is meant for healing, right?
Right.
And then she goes to verse 2 and she's like, the name Evelyn, you know, is there a reason why you use that name? Do you know about the lady Evelyn Fox, whose son was shot in a very similar manner to the way you're describing in the song? And I was like, no clue. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why I wrote that name, and I'm sure I have it written down, is because it just sounded the best. I needed 3 syllables, Evelyn, right? And I had Isabel, Marianne, I had like a few of them, and I was like, Evelyn sounded the best, felt the best, right? So she recommended that I take that name out because she doesn't want it to trigger that mother. Yep. And I agreed to it, but I didn't feel right about doing that one. You know what I mean? Because it just felt like the right name. Yep. And the video fell apart because of, you know, restrictions during COVID and whatnot. And time passed. Finally get to the studio in August, not the August that passed, but the August before that, to record the album with Paul. And we're in the studio working on Danger. And I finally tell him about the story, right? And I don't know if before I told him or after I told him, my wife called while we were in the studio. She was like, hey, I was looking up Evelyn's story. And not only was he shot in a similar way that you described, but he was shot literally like 5 minutes from the road that you say, right? Which is kind of crazy. Like, I live in Toronto. Like, let's say I just randomly picked Evelyn, but she could have lived anywhere in the world. Like, there could have been a person named Evelyn, but she's literally living in Toronto. I'd never heard about her. And the video that I recorded, her son's name in real life is Kissinger, right? The first name that I sang was Kennedy was shot, right? And they both start with A. They're both K. They're both political figures. Yep. And they're both 3 syllables as well, right? So that's like kind of crazy. So I'm cutting out a big part of the story, but I'll fast forward to the part where I actually meet Evelyn. I reach out to her, email, wrote her a long email explaining the whole craziness of everything, and she doesn't respond to me right away. And my wife reaches out to her on Twitter and says, hey, my husband sent you a message. I think you should check it out and read it. And she responds to me and she's like, hey, I thought it was spam, so I deleted it. Oh, right? It was so long, I thought it was spam. And but after finally reading it, I'm so glad that you reached out to me on Twitter, because like I heard the song, I played the song, and I was just bawling my eyes out. And it's like, I needed this song because you've given me a voice when I felt like I didn't have a voice. And you know, if I go back a little bit, I was reluctant to reach out to her because I was like, what if she doesn't like the song? Yeah. What if the Reverend was right? You know what I mean? And the reason why I left her name in it is because when we were in the studio, I told Paul about the Reverend, and I said, we need to record a version with the name Isabel, because I think I might have to take it out. And he's like, you know, sometimes people can get in the way of other people's blessings because they're offended on other people's behalves. Right. And he's like, I think you should leave it. Like, this song just came to you and fell in your lap. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do in this industry. Like, this is like, that's the magic we're looking for, right? He's like, I think you should leave it. So I left it, and I'm glad I did. She ended up being in the music video for Danger. You know what I mean? So she's one of the 2 mothers in there that actually lost their sons to gun violence. And I think it's important to say, and I'll, end this part here, where is that her son wasn't involved in gangs,
Right.
wasn't a bad kid. There wasn't any altercation that we know of. His murder's still unsolved, and just a father who worked hard. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So why I think that song is important is because she's still fighting for this to solve her son's murder, and she's still fighting for other mothers to be heard. Because when she lost her son, the resources she had to get for help were like all over the place, and she's trying to bring those resources into one consolidated place. Because it's like you're grieving, you got to bury your child. She has grandchildren that she has to take care of. You know what I mean? You have to identify her son. Like there's so many parts that we don't think about. We just politicize it and they say, what did he do? Or let's get rid of all the guns. And it's like, I don't sit on any side of that. It's like there's real people here who are suffering and who will feel those wounds long after those children are gone. So for her to validate that experience and for it to happen in that way is kind of mind blowing. You know what I mean? And I left out a part of the story that is even more mind blowing.
All right, we'll do part 2 someday. So what happens when you perform these songs in front of people? How do you do it, and what kind of interaction do you have with the people?
So right now I've been like keeping it very stripped back. So usually it's me and my drummer. You know what I mean? I just in Americana Fest, I had a guitar player and there's 2 backing vocals, but it comes down to the same thing, the same ideology when we record the record. Your voice is front and center.
Yeah.
Stories are front and center. So a lot of storytelling with my songs. So I might not tell that long of a story, but I'll tell like a condensed version of that story. Sure. People really respond to my music, and every time I get on stage, I build new fans, and they really connect to the message. Because I feel like, I don't want to say I'm the only one making music like this at all, but people are deprived for something that's authentic and something that's like really like touching on things that we just don't hear on the radio or don't hear on TV.
Yeah.
So they generally connect to it. And I feel like, I hate to sound like this, but like for me, it's healing. So I believe that it's healing for other people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, because sometimes artists can have like a messiah complex, and I don't want to sound like that.
No.
But music is healing. You know, I definitely believe that. So,
So have you got gigs lined up?
Yeah. So I mean, I have a show. I just came back from Ottawa in Canada and Ontario. Right. I did a show opening up for artists in Cour des Pirates, and we're doing another show on Friday at Danforth Music Hall. My main tour is going to be scheduled for 2022. We kind of set it up that way because thankfully, I guess we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yep, it's only a couple of months away.
Yeah, it's not that far, right? I'm ready for this year to be over. Right. Hopefully, I mean, I'm been happy. It's been great. We're releasing a record, but it's been stressful. I don't know what your experience has been like, but it's been
all over the place. I'll tell you. Yeah. And here in New Zealand, like I said, people have had enough. We've been locked down in Auckland for 2 months now, and when we went into lockdown, we thought it was going to be for just a couple of weeks, and it hasn't been. And the strains are showing, and people are splitting off into factions and kind of going against each other, and the anti-vaxxers, and there's the political side of things, and it's getting ugly. So it needs to come to a resolution.
It definitely needs to come to a resolution, man. I think I don't like to get into the political aspect of it, but one thing I'll say is that I have a hard time turning on Twitter, checking my Twitter, because you go on trending, and it's just constant debate, constant argument.
Yeah. And nobody's listening to anybody. They're just putting out their whatever it is that they feel they need to say, and with no ears to listen back to. Right.
So it's I'm kind of done with the divisiveness. I think, you know what I mean, and I think that's partly why I make the music I do. I don't when I speak to my audience, I as at one show touring in the South in the States, and someone came out to the show and thanked me for not mentioning Trump. Right? And I was like, and not like in the sense of like I hate Trump, but just like, thank you for not talking about politics. Like you spoke on so much stuff, but you didn't talk about politics. I needed that, right?
Yeah.
It's I think we're all just ready to get back to reality. I don't know the nitty gritty of the science and all, but I just think we're all ready to live our lives again, So
I hope so. Well, hopefully you can come down here and share these songs with us at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you did a lot of wandering around the world. Did you ever get here?
Haven't been there. No, the closest I got to was Ethiopia.
All right, you got a ways to go then.
Yeah. So no,
Man.
I have not. I'm not. I mean, what's closer? This is probably a dumb question. Is Ethiopia closer or Hawaii?
Oh, I think it's got to be Hawaii.
Yes, okay. So Hawaii, I was closer.
Right, yeah.
To Hawaii. So,
But
yeah.
we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So,
I guess because you're like the ocean. It's like, I guess on a globe, the water makes it look so far away. But I guess if the globes are not accurate, so
no, they're a bit distorted. But there you go. We get used to it.
Sorry for my
riffraff out. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing all that with me, and good luck with the record release on the 5th.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.